Police dispatchers of Reddit, what are some of your best "you don't call 911 for this" calls? EMT here. Not a dispatcher, but I've been called out for toothache. Ride to a hospital so that he can get a free taxi ride to his car. Curtains smelled weird. Didn't want to stand up. Could stand up just fine, but needed to put oxygen on. Fell asleep with a rubber band on the wrist. And my personal favorite, penis is shrinking and going to disappear. I would call if my penis was going to disappear, too. Cop here. I've been on a few ridiculous runs that should have been filtered out before they got me, including a goose that was stuck on the collar's roof. The goose flew away prior to my arrival. A man called to report that his wife had tripped on a raised slab of concrete on the sidewalk insisted that someone be held responsible. A turtle was blocking traffic at a major intersection, which is a legitimate call. However, while en route, dispatch told me the turtle had removed itself from the intersection, but I still needed to respond because the caller was now following the turtle through people's yards. Those are all pretty dumb, but that last one. Are you in Florida or something? Haha no, Southeast Michigan. I was talking to my mom about a week ago and she called 911 because the ads on Facebook made her uncomfortable. Tell that bitch to get ad block and stop wasting your inheritance. Not a dispatcher, just a citizen. Had a phone call in the middle of a very stormy night. I didn't catch it, but the caller ID said, City of ***, so I called back. It was the police. Apparently water had seeped into my phone line and my phone had been calling 911 all night. While they were talking to me, I had been going from bedroom to bedroom checking to see if everyone was okay and where they should be. I even made the comment, everyone's here, and they're all dead asleep. Oh. They just laughed and told me to have a good night. Small town. That reminds me of the time I had to use a shitty BlackBerry after dropping my phone in a pot of soup. The way it was set up, you could call 911 at the press of a button without actually unlocking the phone. This resulted in me butt dialing 911 more times than I care to admit. The most memorable time was when I was at Six Flags and I noticed a missed call after getting off a roller coaster. Since I lost a majority of my contact list with the old phone, I called them back only to be greeted by a worried-sounding police dispatcher asking if I was okay. Apparently while I was on the coaster, the rattling motion caused my phone to dial 911, and from what they told me, all they could hear on their end was screaming. I made sure not to bring my phone on any more roller coasters for the rest of the day. At my job, to make an outbound call, you have to enter 91 on the phone before dialing the rest of the number. And the one button at my desk phone tends to stick just a bit. I think I've accidentally called 911 like 6 times at this point. I always just hang up immediately and so far nothing has come of it. But I know the cops have shown up once or twice to check in on us when other employees made the same mistake. Why they just had to use 91 for outbounds, I don't know. Not a police dispatcher but a journalist who had the desk with the scanner. I still laugh about one incident to this day. One late Saturday night I worked, a call came over about a domestic dispute between two sisters. They had just gotten home from Arby's. All the napkins had been placed into the bag with one sister's food and she was refusing to share any napkins with her sister. They both called the cops on each other. Cop gets there and finds both women are massively drunk. Radios back, I have equally divided the napkins between the women. Everything is 10-4. My second fave story is the one where an elderly woman called an ambulance because her husband needed to go to the hospital. Husband then calls dispatch and says he's fine. Wife calls dispatch back and says her husband is not fine and had blood in his poop. Husband calls back dispatch and says what's in his poop is none of dispatch's business. They sent an ambulance and a cop in case it turned into a domestic. Man was eventually persuaded to go to the hospital. just had a woman call saying she was having trouble breathing and she had chest pressure. Asked what was causing it and she said, as serious as can be, the CIA. At the end of the call she asked, in her most concerned tone, is Justin Timberlake alright? Quote, never mind JT, is she alright? The CIA said she was fine and we have no reason to doubt that. My dad is a firefighter. Some of his highlights include needing a glass of water, looking for ghosts, guy was bored. Hold up, this person called a firefighter for a glass of water? That's not a good idea no matter how you look at the situation. I mean, they do have like 1,000 gallons of water in the truck. No need to be selfish. I've told this one before. A haircut. She was mad at the stylist for what she considered a bad haircut. I told her this was a civil matter and not an emergency. I was wondering if you guys are taking applications. There's a guy driving a Ford Escort around and this isn't an Escort kind of neighborhood. There's a Mexican guy walking around without one of those backpack things on, you know, the things that blow the leaves. Plot twist was that he was Honduran if I remember correctly, but they all look the same, am I right? I always love how people whisper when they say racist things. There's a madman outside my door. He's trying to sell me magazines. I think he's a terrorist. I think he's black, wearing a blue shirt. It's okay, monsieur, he knows he's black. We'll get right on it. Job has made me hate people. There's a specific suburb where I live that this is commonplace. Firefighter. Woman called 911 to have the batteries in her smoke detectors changed. They were not chirping. She thinks it's been around 6 months. Though, some fire departments do such things to help in the community and non-emergency numbers are sometimes frustratingly difficult to find. Definitely should not be dispatched as an emergency. It is a service we provide and agreed, the numbers can be difficult to find. Let me start off by saying do not call 911 unless it is a real emergency. Someone called while in traffic, asking why there is traffic. It was rush hour on a weekday. Their power went out. A city council member called 911 because there was a dog in his yard. A man lived in an apartment complex and would always call 911 because his above neighbors were walking loudly out of spite. A car they did recognize was at their neighbor's house. One thing about this quarantine, I understand why old people are obsessed with cars on their street. I live with my grandparents and I always used to roll my eyes when they would tell me about some car that drove slowly down the road that they had never seen before. Now, we spent 2 hours watching a red car parked across the street. The lady sat in the driver's seat the whole 2 hours. Never moved. Then just drove off. I'm still dying to know what she was doing. Former campus emergency services dispatcher had someone keep calling because they left their avocados in a locked building and wanted our emergency team to let them in. Who knows? Maybe he was responsible for making the guacamole for a campus event, and the one thing between a successful career as a guacamole maker and getting fired is a locked building. I would call the emergency team in that situation. Citizen here, but my 99-year-old great-grandmother used to press her help button so the firefighters would come by and she'd flirt with a monsieur. They did love her so. But ended up explaining to her that wasn't what her help button was for. Heard from a paramedic once that they actually don't mind those help buttons in the case where an elderly person is unable to get up from their chair. For example, they press the button and the paramedics spend 10 minutes helping them up, making sure they're okay, etc., instead of a situation 2 days later where the person is dehydrated, seriously ill and requires major hospital treatment. That being said, my partner's grandmother wouldn't press hers because she didn't want to cause a fuss for anything she considered minor, which given her fierce independence was pretty much everything. I used to be a dispatcher about 15 years ago. I had a few calls that we all got a good laugh about. One woman saw a crazy-looking spider and wanted us to call the zoo to come pick it up. We just had a hurricane and the lines were super busy. Someone who had evacuated called the non-emergency line to get a weather report. My favorite was the guy who called because his female hooker, which was illegal, turned out to be a guy. He wanted a partial refund because some services were rendered but not everything he paid for was possible. A refund? From a hooker? Classic. Maybe it would have been possible if he'd kept the receipt, but you know how people are. Here. Reasons why someone came by ambulance. Explosive diarrhea and didn't want to ruin their new car. Stubbed pinky toe. Serious. Warts. One wart. Several that saw blood, no matter how small, and frantically called. This went along with the above stubbed toe. Food poisoning. Never heard someone fart so much before and he was mortified. Nice guy, and always my favorite. Needed a ride. I stubbed a pinky toe badly in high school. From the moment it happened I could not put weight on that foot at all. I had to use crutches to get around. After 10 days the toe turned black, and did not developed on my sole about an inch back from where the toe attached. My parents rushed me to the hospital and I had emergency surgery. It turns out I initially broke a bone behind the toe and this severed a vein that supplied blood to the toe. It was painful for quite a while, but they saved the toe. Moral of the story: despite what you think, a badly stubbed toe can be serious. Nah. Moral of the story: most people that need to go see the doctor or go to wait too long. Patient: I think I'm just tired, working a lot and don't know if my work insurance covers this. I'm just probably anxious. Heartburn: it's that because I ate too much. Nurse: sir, you're having left-sided arm pain. 10 out of 10 chest pain and shortness of breath and you're sweating profusely and we had to wheel you back here. I hope it is just heartburn. Okay, so not my best moment. About 2 weeks ago I was changing a hose bib and turned off the hot cold water and tested all of the indoor faucets and they were off. Well, the main water line is hidden below the other two out of sight. Ooga booga brain says all indoor water is off, let's unscrew this hose bib. Pressurized hose bib doesn't unscrew. Ooga booga brain says twist harder, it must just be stuck. Twist the PVC pipe clean off. Water pouring out everywhere. It's a Sunday. Water company is straight up closed due to COVID. I'm freaking out because my bathroom is flooding fast and I run past the main water line at least 5 times. Call 911. The fire department comes and helps me figure out how to use my eyes. Feel bad for calling 911 but seriously didn't know what else to do. Hope those guys got a funny story out of it though. Police dispatcher here. Calling 911 was because Subway wanted to charge for extra peppers. Calling 911 because they were worried about a squirrel at their front door and concerned it would be any. Every call about kids playing video games. Guy calling about kids playing at park in the summer at 5 p.m. Monsieur, with parents. So much time we waste on abandoned 911 calls as well as neighbor, family, adult children crap. Not a 911 dispatch, but I answered phones for FEMA after Katrina. Rita and a woman called about how to get benefits because her power went out during the storm and the ice from her cooler had melted, which supposedly ruined the carpet. I would have no joke been like, oh boo-hoo, how terrible. Reading some of these. On the flip side, I've called 101, non-emergency number in the UK, a few times and been told to ring 999, our version of 911, the proper emergency number. In future. Once was when a dog was loose on a major dual carriageway, basically a motorway, and I explained it was really quiet so we could drive back around and try and capture, told in no uncertain terms not to do that, and a police car was on its way. Told to call 999 if I ever see something like that again. Driving to friend's house where you have to turn across a dual carriageway with a 70 miles per hour limit into his village. The junction is traffic lighted but all lights were stuck on green. Saw a near miss with one car turning across the road when another car was going full speed in. Called 111 at my friend's house. Told the same thing, should have called 999. 3 police cars manning the junction when I left about an hour later. I assumed people would just use common sense and the highways people would be sent out to fix it. Another was when my mom, who has MS, had a fall and had been on the floor for 10 hours by the time I called around. I rang 111, medical non-emergency number, having got her up, and was told she was at serious risk of some condition I forget the name of now. And they transferred me to 999 and immediately sent an ambulance around. Despite being seemingly fine now, I'd helped her up. She was admitted and did have it, not to a dangerous degree, and was released the next day. So like others have said, it shows that not wanting to make a fuss is often more dangerous than idiots ringing over something stupid. The incident with your mom might have been concerned that a blood clot could have formed in one of her legs. If it did and came loose, it could cause a heart attack or a stroke. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.